Advent. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about what it is, why do we even care about it, and what traditions are there for Advent, and how do we then make it ours? You know, so much of Advent has been very traditional focused, and so we can still enjoy Advent for ourselves here. It's a time, it's a season. So let's start with what we know. What do we know? We know Christmas, right? Christmas is a season. We know that. We know it lasts about 6 weeks. And the 4 weeks, the 4 Sundays before Christmas is known as the Advent season. And then there's 2 weeks that follow. Now, not a lot of people follow the 2 weeks after. You know, I'm really amazed on like Boxing Day, which is for the UK the day after Christmas. Trees are on the curb already, and like everything's been dismantled. Where for Graham and I, we definitely celebrate those 12 days of Christmas. That's where they come from. So the first day of Christmas is actually Christmas Day. And so it ends on January 6th. So here's the thing with Graham and I. We love Christmas lights. I mean, we love it inside the home, outside the home, you know. Now, one of us is a little resistant in helping put those things up. I won't name names, Graham. But when they're up, we are just in heaven, you know, and it's like we count our 12 days, we can keep it up. And Graham's always trying to it's the weekend. We can just leave it up for like 2 more days and then take the lights down. So he's always trying to stretch those 12 days of Christmas. But we really enjoy the entirety of the season. So 4 Sundays before Christmas is the Advent season. And it can start anywhere from November 27th, as it did this year, or the way to December 3rd. And that kind of fluctuation there of the start date of Advent really depends on where Christmas falls. So they look at Christmas and then they back it up 40 days and make sure that they have the 4 Sundays included. Now, let's go back to Christmas. Christmas really didn't start till around the 4th century, the celebration of Christmas. And it basically came during the time of the Romans. And what do we do when Christianity spreads? We co-opt, right? We co-opt pagan holidays. Thank you. And so there was a holiday that is known as Natalis Solis Invicti, which is basically the birth of the sun. The birth of the sun. That was a pagan holiday that happened on December 22nd. And what it did is it was a celebration that the days were going to get longer. It was the end of the dark days, and now joyously looking forward to longer days and more sunshine. So that was what that pagan holiday was for. And lo and behold, it becomes Christmas. Yay! It becomes Christmas. Was Jesus born at Christmas time? No, but it doesn't matter. We co-opt Christmas. Yeah, there we go. We co-opt that one. So Advent, what does Advent mean? Advent means coming. It comes from the Latin word, and it means coming, looking for the arrival of. That's Advent. That's what it means. Now, in the olden days, it was seen a little differently than we see it now. In the olden days, like the days of the Old Testament, it was a looking forward to the Messiah coming. And then in the New Testament, it's celebrating Jesus has come and a looking forward to the second coming. All right, so that's the old way that we looked at Advent. Today we look at Advent a little differently, and we look at it from a waiting, a hope, an expectation. That's how we look at the season of Advent. I don't know about you, but when I was a little kid, I was around 9 years old, and I wanted the Susie Bake oven. I don't know if you remember the Susie Bake ovens, but they really baked things for real, like you could pretend like you were an adult. And I wanted that, and I told my mom, anybody who could listen, I wanted the Susie Bake oven. And I'm like waiting, and it's full of anticipation and hope. Now I'm 9, I know where my mom's hiding places are. That's right. I went on the hunt, and this is a big box, so it's not something that could be, and I could not find it. I was like, oh my gosh, I might not be getting a Susie Bake Oven. I was a little bummed, because surely Mom doesn't know that I'm looking for the gifts, right? Christmas morning, there it was, under the tree. Wow, the Susie Bake Oven that I tried to use for anything that I possibly could. I loved that thing. Then I had another Christmas. My parents got divorced when I was 9. And when I was 10, my hope and longing and expectation was that we would still have a family Christmas. That they would come together, that they would get along, that we'd all pretend that we're still a family. That was what I longed for that Christmas. Christmas came, and that was not what I got for Christmas. And that has to be okay at that moment. But what that longing does is it allows us to manifest. That longing allows us to manifest. With that longing, as I grew up, I knew that I wanted to have a family and what my family would look like, and the kind of relationship that I wanted for my significant other. That's manifestation. So that pregnancy of waiting, longing, hope, expectations, that's nothing that we need to fear or feel bad that we longed for something. That's great stuff. That's the beginning of how we manifest. Did everyone hear that? I'm sorry, did everyone hear that? Thank you. So why do we care about this Advent season if it's a time of longing, a time of waiting, of hope? We care about it because we can look at ourselves and make anew, what do we long and hope for? How do we manifest that? We can take this as a time to prepare spiritually. The monks, when they started looking at Advent as a season of celebration, of waiting for, they fasted and they prayed. That was their sacrifice and preparation for Christmas coming. So what I'm saying to you is, I'm saying to you to encourage the longing, knowing that waiting for and faith, they go together. Waiting for and faith. As we wait, do you have the faith to know that you're capable of manifesting what your heart's desire is? Now, here's the trick. It most likely will never be on your time. Yeah. It will be in divine order, though. And that's where the faith comes in. It will be in divine order. For me, when I was looking for a family, that was my longing. I longed for a long time. Graham and I got married when I was around 40. That's a long time to find that, to fulfill, to manifest that longing. But I had faith that it would come, and I was willing to wait. I was willing to be in the desert for 10 years, waiting and knowing. Divine order. And I kept saying, but God, I'm ready. I've done all this therapy. I'm ready. Come on, I'm ready. I wasn't ready. I really wasn't ready. All right, so let's talk about some of the traditions that happen during the Advent season. We're going to start off first with the Advent crown or the Advent wreath. You'll see that this depiction here has 5 candles, and the ones that we were using the previous slide, you saw that it had 4 candles. So we can have 4 or 5. It's usually done in a circle, which is like the never-ending love of God. That's what it represents. The 4 candles are lit each week for the Sunday of Advent. So it's lit on that Sunday. Now, it started off with it being very religious-oriented. So, for example, the first week that you would light the candle, it would be for the prophets, for those who predicted the Messiah is coming. Now we look at that as hope. So that candle, that first week of Sunday that we light that candle, it represents hope. Now, I love that because that's more in alignment with how we think about Advent, the way that we think about being conscious and the divine within. So I like that. I like that a lot. Hope can also be the gratitude, seeing that what we have and be grateful for. And if we aren't there yet, then we can look at it as a time of abundance, a time that we're fulfilling, that we're coming into fruition. The second candle in the olden days represented the Bible. And then with Catholicism, it meant penance. Because, Catholics, we do the guilt and the penance really well. So the second candle represented penance. But now it represents peace. Peace. Which is in alignment, once again, with what we're thinking. And what I like about this is that we're claiming divine order. Peace, we're claiming divine order. The third candle, you'll notice the third candle is usually a different color. Most often it's a pink color because it represents Mary. That's what it represents. And now it means joy. Joy. So we can use this by working on our affirmations, of claiming the truth of what we are. I don't know about you, but when I realize what and who I am, I'm unstoppable, I'm joy-filled, I have capacity, I'm willing. Then the fourth candle used to represent John the Baptist as the one who has paved the way for Jesus' coming. Now it's looked at as love by giving and receiving. And for us, I see that as how do we embody our fifth principle? How do we embody our walk as conscious beings? And the nice thing about this is that each week when you light the candle, you also light the candle the previous week. So the first week you have 1 candle, the second week you have 2 candles lit, the third week you have 3 candles lit, etc. Now when we have the 5th candle, that represents Jesus. It's also known as a homecoming. And for us, I see this as honoring our divinity. Coming home to the truth of ourselves. So we can make any tradition that we want to flex it so that it's suitable for where we are today. Often in unity, we come into unity, and what do? Get rid of that. We didn't like that. They used to beat us with that. And we get rid of so many things that we can look at and renew and make for ourselves. This is why I love tradition, because I'm always looking at, so how can I revamp this so that it's in alignment with my consciousness, with my belief system? We can do that with everything. You're like, no, we can't do that with everything. What about confession? Of course we can. What does confession become? Integrity. What else? Denials, right? Releasing things that no longer serve us. So traditions and rituals are not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on what we do with it. That's where the power is. So I'm inviting you to do things a little differently. We're going to look at the next tradition, which is the Advent calendar. And when you look at that picture, I'm going to run in my office and get one. So that is an example of an Advent calendar. This is also an Advent calendar that's filled with little pieces of chocolate as we count down. You know that's why I got this, right? So it has little windows, and you punch out for the day, and then you take out that chocolate to celebrate. Now, Advent calendars started probably around the 1850s, and they were homemade. It didn't become commercialized until the 1900s, and Germany was the forefront runner in commercializing them. And they're really fun because it helps with that anticipation. We're waiting for Christmas, I get a little something to hold me over as I wait. There are all kinds of Advent calendars, and so you can create your own. Like I went online and I saw at Michael's that they had calendars that you can make yourself, and I thought, wow, what could I do with that? And I thought maybe I would make it an affirmation calendar. So in thinking of that, I'm going to ask you to start a tradition. Each of you should have a green slip, is that correct? And what I want you to do is to look at your neighbor next to you. And if you don't have a neighbor next to you, you may have to move a couple of seats. But everyone just pair up with someone, please. And we are going to sing 2 verses of "You Are the Face of God" to each other. And then I'm going to ask you to write an affirmation for your neighbor, not for yourself, for what you see in your neighbor. And when you write that affirmation, I want you to write it from the I stance, from the I voice. Not you, Polly, are wonderful. I, Polly, am wonderful. Right? Because when we use the I, we own it, don't we? Okay. So I'm going to ask you to sing with me. All right. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are my family. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are a face of God. Okay, so now look at your partner and write the truth of what they already are, my friends. They are already embodying it. They just need to be reminded of it. Does everyone have a green card? Yeah? Okay. They're little, whatever you want to use. That's blue, fine, happy days. All right, I'm only going to give you a minute because it's evident what they are. All right. Would you please exchange the card and give it to the owner? That's okay if you did it already, that's great. Okay, it's not a novella, my loves. Just an affirmation. Give it to the owner, please. Okay, look at it. Look at it. Look at your truth. Okay? Now, what you can do is from this, you can build a tradition around it. Maybe you do it with your family members. And make your own Advent calendar. Something meaningful for you and your family. So I want you to hold on to those cards because we are going to look at them during the meditation. And I'm going to invite my loves to come up.